Well, hello and welcome to Bingewatch, the podcast where we take a look at the hottest new TV and film releases on streaming television platforms. I'm Hannah Fernando, the group editor of Woman and Home magazine.
And I'm Ian McEwan, writer on TV and Satellite Week, TV Times and What's on TV magazines. And today we're looking at the new releases that will be available from Friday the 27th of February 2026, including rockumentary Man on the Run, about Paul McCartney's post-Beatles creative rebirth, and Channel 4's fact-based drama Dirty Business, starring David Thewlis and Toby Jones as neighbours trying to stop sewage being dumped in British waterways.
Which is much more captivating than you might imagine. But anyway, more of that later, because we'll also be checking out the ITV drama The Lady, about Sarah Ferguson's murderous former dresser, and head out on safari in Botswana as BBC Two's Big Cats 24/7 returns. Oh, I love it. With more wildlife footage of lions, leopards and cheetahs. But first, Ian, what is in the news?
Man of the moment, Alan Carr, will host Prime Video travelogue The F It List. That's not the real title, but you get the gist. Joining fellow comics in some bucket list destinations. What else is in the news, Hannah?
Oh, Alan Carr, he's going to Hollywood, isn't he?
Oh, he is.
Well,
have to get his
for the
teeth
baby
fixed.
boomers. Yeah, the big American smile. For the baby boomers, kids classic Captain Pugwash, which didn't feature masturbates or semen stains. Thanks for that, Ian. I'm glad you got me to talk about that bit. Despite the rumours, it is now available on ITVX.
It has to be brought up, I'm afraid. Well, we're very fact-based this week, I would say, because we've got a wildlife documentary series, we've got a feature-length rockumentary, and we've got two fact-based dramas. Yeah, so we're all about the facts, just the facts. And we're going to start on Prime Video with a new feature-length documentary called Man on the Run. And here's a clip.
Wings was a dud when it first came out. If anybody bad-mouthed us, I was thinking, I'm going to make the best record you've ever heard. Say, live and let die. People thought we were totally crazy, but that was our way. And the word spread that, this was a good show.
Well, we haven't been short on deep dives into the Beatles in recent years, have we, Hannah? There's been quite a lot of stuff. However, as the title, you might have guessed from the title, which is a sort of variation on Band on the Run, this is all about Paul McCartney and Wings and Macca's post-Beatles sort of creative rebirth, if you will. It's directed by Morgan Neville, who I had a little chat with last week. He's done a lot of music documentaries. He did one called 20 Feet from Stardom, which was sort of about backing singers, which I think was picked up an Academy Award. In this, we sort of joined Paul McCartney immediately, well, at the point where the Beatles officially split up. So, which he kind of got the flack for, because he was this one who sort of made the official announcement, but effectively John Lennon had already checked out. And when you think about it, I mean, he's been in the world's most successful group ever for his entire adult life. He's still a young man. He's just starting a family. He's just got married. And it has a massive effect on him. I mean, they don't really dwell on it, but they go and live on this farm in Scotland that he owns. And it just sounds like he's depressed. He's drinking heavily. It's all a bit grim. However, he's just one of those people who, he just can't stop creating, really. So he releases some solo material, which doesn't get a great reception. And then you think he'd be on a hiding to nothing, putting a new band together, especially a band with his wife Linda in it. And she got a lot of flack, didn't she? But he did. He put Wings together, and they ended up being hugely successful. Of course, it was like Alan Partridge described Wings as the band the Beatles could have been, which was very funny. But I do like Wings. And I think the thing is, if you look at the first three singles that he put out, post-Beatles. There, it was Mary Had a Little Lamb, and another one was Give Ireland Back to the Irish. That he just wanted to do something that was complete departure from the Beatles, and he succeeded in that. Then, of course, he got the Bond theme for Live and Let Die. But Band on the Run, which had a kind of iconic album cover, the way that Sgt. Pepper did, didn't it, with all those celebrities sort of dressed up as escapees from a prison. That was sort of the high point for Wings, and yeah, they went on to tour very successfully, and they took the kids on tour. You see the kids in the recording studio, you see the kids on tour, so it's a real kind of family affair with Linda on keyboards as well. So I think that was a really important element for him. So I kind of get the feeling that like Lennon was always portrayed as the cool Beatle, McCartney not so much. And there's something about Wings that they were just having a good time. He was just enjoying playing live. He didn't need to do anything. He could just stay in Scotland, just on the farm, having a nice time. But he just wanted to get out there. He wanted to keep writing songs. He wanted to be in a band again, and he wanted to tour, and he wanted Linda to be there, and he wanted the kids to be there. And he did it. And amazingly, he was really successful at it. In fact, Band on the Run made him the most successful of the Beatles as a solo artist. So, yeah, I mean, I love anything to do with the Beatles. I'm absolutely on board with. And I thought this was... McCartney's an executive producer, and they have the audio interviews with him, and there are lots and lots of archive footage. So yeah, for music fans, it's an absolute must watch, and it did get a cinema release as well. What did you think, Hannah?
Well, I mean, I just love anything that kind of deep dives into, you think you know somebody. I mean, the band like the Beatles is just so massive. You feel like you personally know them, and clearly we don't, because when you watch archive footage like this and you just see them being real and stuff that we've never seen before, you get a complete insight into the person behind the stage person, if that makes sense. And, seeing when the Beatles broke up, I think we've discussed boy bands before, haven't we? With Take That, that's not long been out, and what really goes on, and the pressure to produce and to be show ponies all the time, it just has to take out on you. I'm not suggesting we feel sorry for these people that have really amazing privileged lives and all the rest of it, but essentially the pressure to produce and create music and be something that everyone thinks you are must wear thin eventually. And I just think this gives a very real and very raw insight into their lives, and when they broke up and how difficult that was. And Linda McCartney was the love of his life, wasn't she? I mean, he just adored her, and I think that seeing that kind of footage and understanding the journey he's been on to Paul McCartney kind of makes everything become a little bit clearer. I think it's great. I think with every music documentary, you don't have to be a massive Beatles fan, although it helps. You just learn so much, and I love to explore that person that's behind the show pony, basically.
Over on ITV1 and as a box set on ITVX, we have a new drama series called The Lady, and here's a clip.
As time passes, speculation is growing. Could Jane Andrews have killed the man she loved?
The real question we must consider is why she committed these violent acts.
She spent so much time with the royals, she started to think she was one of them.
I don't want an ordinary life!
We're 3 days into a national manhunt. A woman can't just disappear.
What's wrong with me, Mum? Why can't I ever just be happy?
Well, fairly topical and of the moment, I'd say, with Sarah Ferguson in the news, as she is. However, I have watched a couple of episodes of this already, and I'm quite captivated. In as much as, I'm going to go back to the story in a minute, but it takes a little while to get to Sarah Ferguson. There's a little bit of a story initially that centres around this lady called Jane Andrews. who essentially becomes her dresser. But everyone remembers that polka dot outfit, I think, that was in the news. And this is kind of how she blasts into the room. Nothing like how I'd imagine, which just certainly doesn't particularly look like her other than the ginger hair. But I mean, apart from that, she doesn't particularly look like her. Probably as obnoxious as she could be. But she sort of bursts onto the scene. And it's about as ridiculous as that, in my opinion. But in equal measure, completely captivating, because this is based on a true story, but it's loosely, and at the beginning it comes up and says, a lot of it's been made for the drama. So you kind of have to separate the fact from the fiction here. But essentially, this is based around, as I say, this girl called Jane Andrews. And it jumps to and fro a little bit. But you see her as a young girl in quite sort of a depressed area of the north, just desperate to get out and wanting to do something different, break the mold, if you like. And everyone's saying to her, you'll never get anywhere, better than us. And she just had aspirations like so many youngsters do, and she was really determined, and that was really commendable, really. And she applied for a job at the palace for Sarah Ferguson's dresser, and she got the job. And you see her coming to London. Her parents are, I mean, she's I should point out here, she does suffer from mental health issues, and that is, you see that quite quickly in the first episode, the troubles and the concerns, and we understand that she's tried to take her life on one occasion previously, and we learn to say that quite quickly. But her parents are just, you can just see, I think the parents play such a brilliant role. They're just so happy for her. They just can't believe this envelope that's turned up from Buckingham Palace. Why are they writing to you? And down she goes to London to be interviewed. And it doesn't look like she's going to get the job. She doesn't seem to have the qualifications. The CV doesn't show much. And she sits there with a northern accent and saying, yeah, but I did get a distinction, but it was only a foundation course. And, she wasn't particularly selling herself, but just completely natural. And the people interviewing her were arguably, one of them was okay, but one of them was a little bit sniffy. And then Sarah Ferguson blasts in the polka dot dress. And she said, why are you here? And she says, Jane says, I'm better suited to a palace. And that's kind of where she had her aspirations. She felt she should be growing up in a palace. And you see her just living her real best life. But it jumps to and fro, because the opening scenes of this, you see somebody who's murdered. And Jane Andrews, and this is what I mean, it jumps to and fro. It's not difficult to follow, but it jumps to and from past and present. She becomes quite close to Sarah Ferguson, but is eventually let go. And she is sentenced to a life in prison for the murder of her boyfriend. And so you see this crime being investigated alongside kind of her life as growing up, doing this amazing job. And as I say, the mental health aspect is quite important to this. But you get to know her, and there is I think the part of Jane, you really get to see kind of what she's like, what makes her tick, her, ruthless kind of want to get to where she needs to get to, but also what she's wrestling with. And it's kind of really sad that it ended up like this. Of course it is, someone's died, but she had every opportunity. And was this the best opportunity? Was it good that she saw this, incredible life she could have? Did that play a part in it? Did it give her access to a world that she couldn't really, most of us, couldn't cope with? So, as I say, you kind of rhyme from the 1980s, right up to the aftermath in the 2000s. And I find it quite captivating, but it does jolt around everywhere. I don't think it's brilliant. I just found it very, very interesting. And I think that it's very, very topical. What did you think, Ian?
Yeah, it's had very mixed reviews. It has to be said, and some accusations of it sort of in bad taste, or it's the timing is inappropriate. Mckenna-Bruce, who was the star of Agatha Christie's Seven Dials, and I thought she was great in that, and that got not great reviews. She's superb as Andrews, I think, really good, and especially episode 1 where, yes, she gets the job. she goes to work in Buckingham Palace, and just the rest of the staff are so horrifically snobby about her shoes and her accent. It's just awful. And she's sort of thinking, maybe I shouldn't be here. And as you say, it's the parents are almost kind of pressuring her to stick with it. That's Claire Skinner and Dan Ryan from The Bay. Good to see them. You got Philip Glenister as the police officer investigating the murder and looking for Andrews when she disappears. So, yeah, another criticism has been that Natalie Dormer, who plays Sarah Ferguson, kind of takes over because it's such a larger-than-life performance. But that's the impression we have of Fergie. So that's why initially people really liked her, because she wasn't like the other royals. She was like this really kind of, almost caricature, kind of larger-than-life character. But I got to say, I enjoyed episode 1, and I think I will keep watching it. I mean, of course, everyone's fascinated by, especially a murder linked to the royals. It's the royal soap opera, isn't it? And people criticise The Crown for sort of, not being believable, but it's the royal soap opera that everyone loves. And I do think, and particularly Mckenna-Bruce, I think she's terrific in this. And yeah, I think it's worth a look. Don't always believe the critics. Have a look and decide for yourselves. Over on BBC iPlayer, we have the return of the wildlife documentary series Big Cats 24/7. And here's a clip.
In an area that is crawling with lions, there's only one resident cheetah, and her name is Pobe.
This is the Kudum Pride,
The world's largest pride of lions.
headed up by these two, Big Toe and Maduma.
Well, this is what the Beeb, one of the many things the Beeb is so good at, wildlife documentaries. And this is a return to the Okavango Delta in Botswana, which is an absolute haven for big cats. And 24/7, yes, they can follow them round the clock because they've got these amazing thermal imaging cameras, so they can film them at night, which is terrific and fascinating. And also they've got drone cameras, so it means that they can, wherever the cats go, even if they can't follow them in their vehicles, the drones can keep track of where they are, which just makes the whole thing a lot easier. And then you can just tell the story as it unfolds. So, yeah, Gordon Buchanan, of course, he's back, and he's a real veteran of BBC wildlife documentaries now, isn't he? He's got a very interesting backstory, growing up in the Hebrides, and how and why the great outdoors means so much to him. Yeah, so the camera operators feature quite heavily in this because there are also other cameras mounted on their vehicles, and they're talking to camera about, we're following the lions now, we're doing this and that. They're talking to each other on the radio. It's really nice, I think. And yes, there are we're revisiting the Kudum Pride of lions, and we're catching up with them, what's happening there. There are some intruder males that are going to cause a ruckus. One of the cheetahs now that we met before has 2 cubs. There's a new leopard with a cub. It's all going on. But yeah, the footage is incredible. And I mean, they also they have these camera traps in their camp where they stay at night. And when they look at the footage from those, they just see there've been sort of lions have been in camp, and elephants, hyenas. It's terrifying. So yeah, it's just it's really high quality wildlife filmmaking, and I love it. What did you think, Hannah?
I absolutely love stuff like this. And of course, it's only going to get better and better, isn't it? Because technology is getting better and better. And the thermal imagery cameras and the drones just mean that you get access all areas that we just haven't ever seen before. And you're right. I think the interesting thing about this one is that you get to see a lot more of the camera crew. You get to see what's going on in their camp. And I went on honeymoon on safari, and we stayed right out. And the Maasai warriors took us back each night, And they'd have like a fire stick as you'd go to make sure that there were no animals around, and they'd zip you in before they'd go back. But the same thing would happen overnight. You could hear the elephants going over your tent poles. But they had a walkie-talkie, and there was a lion roaring outside the tent. But they'd say they'd never come for you. That it would be you that would cause the problem for them. They're not there to get you. They're just outside having a sleep. But yeah, it's when, like you say, when you see that kind of footage, you think, crikey, it's pretty close, isn't it? And there's a bit of flimsy material between you and them. But what never fails to amaze me is the human, whether we humanize them, I don't know, probably because we give them all names and stuff, but it's just this lovely, simple sort of world, isn't it, really, where you just look after your own and your young. The playing with the cubs is just absolutely gorgeous. And then how this sort of, the pecking order can change so quickly, how you can rule the roost and then suddenly not. And you just feel like you're on a massive journey and so close to it. And the only thing with these things is it was always a sort of a sadder element to them often, isn't there? And of course, you're screaming from the sofa, please step in and stop that from happening. But of course you can't. You're there, as a byproduct of what is happening in the wild. And if we were to tamper with that, that would be a problem. So it's just brilliant. And I think things like this are only going to get better.
Well, we're going to finish over on Channel 4 and Channel 4 streaming with a new drama series called Dirty Business. And here's a clip.
In the year that I have data for, they've dumped sewage 1,000 times.
Get the doctor in.
We can't treat sewage without any power. We're dumping it straight into the river.
We've got to get this to the Environment Agency.
We want to strip out as much unnecessary regulation as possible. You want water companies to monitor their own pollution.
These aren't accidents. It's a policy.
Yes, so this is a 3-parter which explores the stories of victims and whistleblowers who think their lives have been damaged forever after encountering polluted water. And I don't know how much you know about this, Ian, but I know a little bit about it. I thought I knew a little bit about it. I feel like I know a lot more about it now after watching this. But this is based on a true life sewage scandal which is engulfing the UK's water companies. And this could essentially, like a lot of other documentaries we've seen, this isn't a documentary, this is a drama, but bringing a drama that brings to life something real, I should say, that could possibly change things, because this is awful. And the series centres around this real-life retired police detective, Ash Smith, who's portrayed by David Thewlis, and his neighbour, who's a professor of computational biology. It's a bit of a saying, isn't it? A bit of a word. Peter Hammond, played by Jason Watkins, and they notice that the fish in the river, in this sort of lovely Oxfordshire hamlet, are dying, and it's very dramatic. Of course, it's a drama, but it's cuts away with lots of sort of very impactful music, and you see fish dying, and straight away it's surrounded by sadness here. This is big companies doing something that they perhaps shouldn't be doing, and they contact their local sewage company to find out what's going on, but they get an evasive reply, and it's it's sewage pumping out into water that people can swim in. It cuts away to people being very sick in hospital. It's real, it's happening, it's awful. And then you see sort of behind the scenes, and of course there is a whistleblower who's telling them what's going on from the inside. And something like this can be really impactful, can't it? Mr. Bates versus the Post Office is another one that just had a real impact with the government for people to listen to. And this feels like it could have the same. I haven't watched all of it yet, but what I have seen of it, it's really quite sad to watch. But also, I feel like everybody should watch it because it's scary and it's worrying, and it could be happening near you. What do you think, Im?
Yeah, it's the latest things to be sort of dubbed the new Mr. Bates versus the Post Office, isn't it? And two wonderful stars in Jason Watkins and David Thewlis. They're so good. And the whole sorry tale of the privatisation of the water companies is it's just horrific, isn't it? And you see in this that they just get sort of bought and sold by venture capital and just milked dry, so they can pay out dividends, they can give huge salaries out, and just not invest any money in upkeep infrastructure, and then just sell it on, flip it. And I mean, if you're not already furious about the disastrous state of the waterways and the way sewage is being treated or not treated, just flushed into the sea and rivers, this will make you absolutely seeing red. It's just the response. First of all, the responses from the water company when these two neighbours start asking them questions are just risible, or just deliberately, obfuscatory. And then we discover that the regulator, this is Charlotte Ritchie appears as someone working for the regulator. The regulator decided to save money, they'd let the water companies police themselves. So it was up to them to tell the regulator if they'd done anything wrong. I mean, it just absolutely beggars belief. And this is all down to like a couple of guys just doing it off their own bat, because they, it's their local environment that's being ruined, and just the more they dig, well, the more what they discover. You've also got Asim Chowdhury from People Just Do Nothing. Good to see him. He's playing like a sewage plant worker who becomes a whistleblower. So yeah, I mean, it's depressing to watch, because you come away thinking none of this will ever change, or the only way it will do is it just costs the taxpayer a fortune to renationalise these companies. But the whole thing has been a disgrace from start to finish. And yeah, I mean, I'm just really pleased that they've made a drama about it that, it's going to shine a spotlight.
I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen it, Ian. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but, if you go to the beaches down to the sea, I mean, there has been some summer days you cannot go in that water. It is revolting. I mean, it is so awful. And you're right, it's just so depressing and so upsetting. And you can only hope that this starts the change.
Fingers crossed. Well, on a lighter note, Hannah, we get the chance now to find out what the hell you've been binge watching.
Well, do you know what? I'm feeling rather sad because the Winter Olympics is over. And it feels like it's left a massive hole in my life. I never imagined this. But for the last 2 days, we've just gone, what are we going to watch then? Oh, this feels a bit sad. So tell me what to binge watch, Ian, because I need to know.
Well, hold your horses, because it's not long till the Winter Paralympic Games will be on. Less than 2 weeks, in fact. So get set for that. I revisited one of the Alien films, Prometheus, which appeared on Netflix recently, and well, it's got like Idris Elba, it's got Charlize Theron, all sorts of first-rate actors, and it's Ridley Scott, of course, who directed the original, so it's very, very good. Now, we've just got time to look ahead to next week's offerings, so what is on the Binge Watch menu, Hannah?
Well, Rachel Weisz and Leo Woodall star in steamy campus romance of Vladimir.
Oh, and Morgan Freeman narrates the new Netflix documentary series Dinosaurs from Jurassic Park creator Steven Spielberg. So we look forward to those and much more. But in the meantime, dear listeners, keep watching!